So what I'm going to have trouble seeing my screen due to connection, so just bear with me on that. So what I'm going to do is just give a sort of brief overview of the Perl jobs market and how it's looking. And then later on, I'm going to talk about how we can make ourselves more appealing to companies, whether you're a senior developer who's been doing it for 10, 15 years, or if you've just done it in your spare time and want to get into a commercial environment. So we'll cover both of those areas. So firstly, I need to hold my hands up. I was going to give a talk around about questioning, but however, I had an issue on the 5th of July. I asked a question of my own, which has kind of taken up more time than one expected. So then about a week ago, I was like, oh shit, I haven't written the talk. So I then spoke to Amalia and said, what can I do? And she said, talk about something you know. I'm like, what do I do in that sense? So I thought, yep, I'm a Perl recruiter. It's a Perl conference. So the logical choice was, or maybe I'll leave that to Oliver Bimman. So I guess on a serious note, let's talk about Perl jobs. Now I'm told a good Perl talk always involves pictures of a cat. So there's your one there. So who am I to talk about Perl jobs? Why am I stood here in front of you speaking about Perl jobs and the Perl market? Well, so my background is I've been doing Perl recruitment for about 5 years now. I work for a company called Allego Recruitment. If you're wondering, if you've seen our pink sign downstairs and you're wondering what Allego, why it's called Allego. Allego stands for search to select in Latin. So yeah, I've been to a few YAPCs now, and we really feel like we engage with the community, and we feel really accepted within the community, and we thank you all for that. So I was told I can't advertise that I'm looking for people to come to work. So just repeat, this is not actually an advertisement. So I guess the question we're all asking is, are there still Perl jobs? Is there still a market out there for people doing Perl? And I guess what forms in which are these jobs taking? What are they looking like? Is it still the same as it was previously? Are there different environments? Are there different types of roles? How can I match my skill set with what people are looking for? Or how can I develop my skill set to ensure I am competitive in the market? And I guess where in the world are these jobs? Are they just centered around certain places, or are they a mix? Now, I'm only going to talk about Europe, obviously, as we're at YAPC EU, but obviously there are jobs further afield. But let's focus purely on the European market. And the age-old question: is everybody moving away? Is everyone moving to Java? Is everyone moving to Scala? So I'll cover that as well. So let's dig further into the detail. Let's see actually the crux of what the market is looking like. So let's cover the Perl jobs first. So despite what people are saying, the Perl market is still strong. It's still as buoyant as before. It's even grown since I've been doing Perl recruitment. And what I find more interesting is it's not just your standard someone's left, let's replace them. There's a lot of organic growth going there. There's a lot of companies who are doing really, really well. So they're expanding their dev team and they're growing that. So that's creating more and more opportunities. And that's not just at the senior end. That's at the junior end as well. There's a great example of a company I work with in London who are developing young graduates who've probably got a PHP or a .NET background, etc. And they're training them up, and over a 3 or 4 year process, they're becoming mid to senior level developers. So there is that entry level in as well, And I guess what I'll talk about this a bit more later. There is also the opportunity for people who may have moved away from Perl, may have not touched it for a while, returning back as well. There's a lot of opportunities for returners as well. And yeah, I guess it's more than just what you would expect, what people seem to think Perl jobs are these days, which is just rewriting legacy code or just updating that. There's a lot of other opportunities out there, and companies now have seen that because people are moving away, how can we keep people within our business? How can we keep our developers engaged? And they're investing heavily into training and developing their teams, investing into new technologies, so people are getting a wider range of what their exposure. So I guess in summary, the market is looking really good here. So let's cover a couple of other areas. So what form does a Perl developer job take these days? Now I'm always asked this when I'm talking to developers on a daily basis. What I have to stress is the day of the. Oh, that's not good. That's back. Okay. Let's put that there. The day of the developer who just sits in the corner doing back-end development are gone. If your skill set is that, I would urge you to look at other technologies you can get involved with. Versatility is such a key thing for companies now. They're looking at people becoming more full stack in terms of development. Now we can have an argument all day about what actually defines a full stack developer. That's not. But what I'm keen to stress is, if you haven't looked or haven't touched on JavaScript in the past, I would say pick it up in your spare time, have a look at it. It's what companies are really looking for. Perl developers who've got a wider range of skill sets. It's the same with the infrastructure side of things. There's still that market as well. There's still the full stack on that side, someone who's got some really strong Linux infrastructure experience and has got some Perl development experience as well. There is I say it's no longer, because you're working in more agile teams, you're working in a more agile way. There is no more just the same day in, day out. They want people who want to engage in other areas of the business, as well as people who are not just product focused, but commercially focused as well. So people that people that really understand what the business does and how what you do affects the overall commercial aspect. So it's looking into the more business side of things. It's understanding the product and how not only that works internally, but how other businesses or how other products affect in other companies, how that works with them. So it's a wider range of skill set people are looking for, and it's a different mindset, I think, from what it has been in the past. But as I said, it's more about the versatility and the diversity of an individual developer. That's what people are generally looking for. So where in the world are they? So as we're aware, there is a large Perl house in Holland. I'm sure you might have all heard of them. But what I'm keen to stress is there are other companies out there in the Netherlands. For a start, there are a lot of young businesses who are using Perl still and are starting to use Perl. There are a lot of companies in the UK is strong in that market. This is where I wasn't going to cover this, but this is where I will cover it. With Brexit, there's been a lot of misinformation that the UK aren't hiring, the UK aren't accepting people from Europe. That's not true. The UK are very keen to develop further in the tech market. They're very keen to bring people over who have skill set that are in high demand. There is no problem with visas for people with EU passports. The market hasn't changed since that vote was made. So I just want to make that point clear. But again, it's not just the UK and Amsterdam that have large Perl houses that are hiring for Perl developers. The German market is still strong. It's a bit more spread out than it was in the past, but there are still a load of jobs in Germany. There's some jobs in Sweden. There's Portugal. The Portuguese market is still strong in Perl. The Spanish market, there's some companies in Austria, and as I've said earlier, the US is still a hub for Perl. Now, I've only named several countries there we work with. I haven't spoken about remote work. Those looking for remote work, there is still remote work available, but it's not as readily available as it has been in the past. There are smaller projects here and there, which we can cover in a later date. But again, that market is still strong. And I guess what I'll cover now is the contract market. Perl contracts have gone up and down. We're currently on a downslide for the contract side of things. Most people are looking, because what I was saying earlier, what I'll come on to, is more the team aspect and engaging in a team and building a team. And a lot of people are seeing now that what we want from a team environment is permanent heads who are engaged and connected with the product, connected with the business. But that's not saying there are still opportunities available, but people are focusing more on perm due to the basis of what they want in their teams. So again, the question, are people moving away? Well, no is a simple answer. Or as we're in Romania, no. So that's great. There are jobs in Perl, and what I especially like is you get paid for them as well. So let's dig into the money. Let's see what the money is looking like. So there's no hard and fast rule when it comes to what salaries people are looking for, and what salaries people are paying. There are various different areas in which people are how that's defined. So companies have different pay scales. Some companies have different structures. That some have like a scale thing you have to work to, or if you're at a certain level. Is it all in years experience? The slides later I talk about when I talk about salary. I do speak about years experience, but it is literally a guide. There's the personality factor. That's how well you fit within the team, what you bring to the team, the value add you have. Location is a key. What someone will get in Munich or London or Amsterdam, somewhere like that, is going to be more than someone outside of the major cities. But also, there is the opportunity if you're more local, then that's a benefit in itself. The size of the company does affect it as well. So if you work for a large corporate, it swings and roundabouts. Large corporates, you can get the larger salaries, but however, there's also those pay scales in which you have to hit. Smaller companies generally don't have as much money to spend, but you got the factor of working on different and exciting projects. So it does depend on where you're working, who you're working for. So let's look at new developer, graduate developer, returning developer. So being British, I've done it in pounds. Apologies. As I've said, I've based this on 0 to 2 years experience. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a guide to work to. A lot of companies will work to that as an experience guide, but if you've got strong technical ability, then you'll get the money to reflect that. So let's look at we're seeing a lot of companies paying 25 to 30K for someone who's entering Perl, who's got a 0 to 2 years experience, who's shown some commercial, has worked in a commercial environment before. However, which I'll come on to a bit more detail later, if you've got personal projects on CPAN or etc., this counteracts a lot of the stuff if you haven't got commercial experience. And again, be aware that the other factors we've mentioned already. If you're outside of a major city, etc., again, that will affect salary in that sense. Feel free to ask questions as I go if you have any. So more mid-level developer. Again, I've looked at 3 to 5 years experience. Roughly looking at around about 40 to 50K. Again, location dependent, size of company dependent. And now I guess looking at a bit more of the senior level. So again, a lot of people consider senior developers to have 5+ years experience. But this is more dependent on your technical ability, because a lot of companies, when they hire, will do a tech test from the start, and that will define where you're sat within their structure already. Again, what's considered a senior in one business? If you're a team of 3 and you've been there the longest, you're seen as the senior developer there. But if you move to a company with 20 developers, doesn't actually mean you're going to be a senior there. So just be aware of where you're at. Look at your experience, what you've done, the projects you've worked on, and that generally will affect where you position that. Is that clear, everyone? Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. It's not actually that different. I don't work in Microsoft technology, so I can talk about Ruby and Python and PHP. And we're roughly about the same at the mid and junior level. At the senior level, because senior Perl developers are harder to find, you generally can get more money as a senior Perl developer than you can as a senior Python developer or a senior Ruby developer. There's not actually a great deal in it, but just due to the nicheness of what you guys do, it adds value. So that's what I would say. So, okay, so we've seen the market. We know what the market's looking like. So how do we apply for the right role then? So the first snapshot people see of you will be the CV. But again, as I'll come on to, it's not all about the CV these days. It's a guide, it's a tool, it's a very good tool, but it's not all about the tool. But how should we have our CV set up? So I've got this template which I can send to anyone who wants it. It's a different aspect, it's a different way of looking at things. So again, standard personal details, etc. Personal profile, given a view of who you are, why you got into Perl, why you got into development, what you do. Because again, it's about team fit and culture. And technical skills, I always stress to people, when you put technicals on your CV, don't just put a whole raft of things you've touched in the past. That's great, but what I would say is put what you've done, put what you're strongest at. So put Perl and then a time in which you used Catalyst or whatever it may be. But put real tangible evidence of what you're using and making it clearer to people who are looking at the CV what you do, and how you've done it, and the experience and projects and stuff you've worked on. So again, career details as you'd expect. What I like to see on a CV is environment. So there's a space in where I've titled it where you can see what the type of environment. Maybe that's an agile environment. Maybe it's a small project team. Whatever that may be. Because again, if that goes to a company you have a similar environment, it's going to put you ahead of where you are of other people who may not have worked in that environment. Key projects. What you've actually done. It's amazing people how many CVs I see who gives a raft of information but don't actually list what projects they've done and why they've done it. And again, with key achievements, I always say at the end of a summary of where you've worked, put 2 or 3 key achievements. What did you personally value add to that company? What did you contribute to that company? And how has that affected the bottom line? How has it affected them technically? Because again, it's been that commercially aware. It's been about showing engagement with the business, and it's a good talking point when you get to interview. And I don't know, list your tech meetups, again, events you've been to, if you've published anything, and what sort of interests you have. I always like interests outside of just programming, what else you do. If you're looking for more of a creative role, talk about creative things you do outside of work, just to show you have other interests, and just give an overview of who you are as a person. This is a window into who you are. So before I go further, why should I feel as a recruiter I can add value to people, and not just me, other recruiters as well? What do recruiters actually do? Because I think in the jobs market, we're often seen as pests who just send you LinkedIn emails all the time. But what real value can we bring, and what do we do in terms of how we interact with the community? So it's about, the value of a recruiter is being the intermediary between you and the business. If you're looking for more money, or you're looking to work in a different space within the team, there's that person who can ask those questions for you. Someone can ask the difficult questions that you might not want to ask. Someone who can liaise with the business, someone who can show you opportunities that you might not be aware of. Often I get told, oh, but I know everybody in the Perl market. I know I can find a job like that. Generally, there's a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of evidence of companies that maybe aren't as connected with the Perl community as they should be. Therefore, they don't advertise that they are a Perl house. So it's about showing those opportunities as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a fair question. We take a lot of PHP developers and put them into Perl roles. It's always tough, but I always find once people understand what Perl is, I think before they know the language maybe technically, or they've looked at it technically, but they don't know what else comes with Perl in terms of the community, in terms of the benefits of being a Perl developer. I think once they've understood that, once they're engaged with that, I've never seen a problem with people switching. I think as long as we can explain what career paths there are, what they can get from it, because a lot of people, the studies are saying a lot of people who are at the younger age who might switch are all about what can I get from a role, not what value I can give, but what can I get. So if we can explain that and the benefits of why Perl is the role to move to, then I think that adds a lot more value. And it's a harder way, but it's after you get the initial gauge, then you can sell it a lot easier. Does that make sense? Yes. Mm-hmm. but we can have a chat later about how we can talk about different creative strategies in which we can look at. Mm-hmm. We can talk about, so I can talk about with you a bit later about, because we've done a lot of tutorials on creative ad writing and how we can attract people via social media and via different job boards, and how that can attract people and how attention people can be drawn to different areas. So I guess this is more aimed at people who are now looking to set themselves apart within the market. I've alluded to this already, but you need to be more than just a good developer these days. It's about team fit, it's about team culture. It's about how, it's about, do you fit in with the culture within the business? And how do you determine that? How do you define that? It's about questions in which you ask at interview stage. A lot of the time you'll say, you're asked the question, oh, what's your culture like there? Oh, it's great, everyone goes on, we all go down to the pub together and then move on. It's about finding out more than that. You need to really dig into what they're like, what their team makeup's like, what their team structure's like. And that's the best way you'll find you fit within a business, is by finding out who works there, where their backgrounds come from, and just doing a bit more research than maybe has been done in the past. Are you engaged with Perl? I think I'm talking to the converted here because we're at a Perl conference and you're all clearly engaged with Perl. But and you want to get involved with the community, and you have to ask yourself if you like working within a team. If you don't, there's a lot of opportunities that will pass you by, because from my experience, a lot of people want that team aspect. And are you passionate? But again, we're in a Perl conference, so I'm assuming you're all passionate. But you need to demonstrate that. But how can we demonstrate that? How can you show that passion? Make contributions. I think Sawyer was saying it earlier, just get involved. I guess this gives you, this is a bit more overview of how you can make yourself more appealing. So what you'll find is a lot of companies, when they see your CV, will do a Google search, see what comes up, and see what you've been talking about online. So are you blogging? It doesn't matter if no one reads it. Are you blogging? Are you showing? Are you talking about what you're interested in? Are you talking about Perl? Are you talking about things you're doing? It gives again. It's another aspect of putting yourself ahead of everybody else. Your social profile. Do you have a social profile? This is a thing that always astounds me. Loads of people don't have their LinkedIn that matches their CV. Yes, I appreciate not everybody uses LinkedIn, but HR recruiters use LinkedIn all the time. So, especially for larger companies, the internal teams will have a look at your LinkedIn and they will reject people if it doesn't match. Whether that's right or not, it's a different story, but that is what happens. Make sure when you're on LinkedIn you keep it professional. I don't know if anyone saw this outside of the UK. This is a lady called Charlotte Proudman. It was in the news for 3 or 4 weeks. A senior colleague within her industry contacted her about her looks on LinkedIn. It went everywhere. It went viral. So it's all about keeping things professional in a professional environment. Again, LinkedIn's not Facebook, so I wouldn't advise posting puzzles and all sorts of things on LinkedIn. Post things that are relevant to Perl and relevant to what you're doing. Show again, it's another way to show your passion, show what you've been doing. Have a photo. Nothing's worse than seeing a LinkedIn profile without a photo. But then I guess it's keen to make sure you have the right photo, because so and are you getting viewed? How are we connecting with people? It's important just to be seen. So that's by you do that by sharing and liking and connecting. It ups your view rating and sharing blogs and all sorts of things on LinkedIn. Yes, as I said, to comment is good. It's always good to comment, and sharing is vital. If you see a colleague who's posted a really good article about Perl, share it. Get that out to your community, because it's again will be a window in to people to say, look, I'm engaged with what I'm seeing. Endorsements, again, make sure if you've got Perl on there, make sure people are endorsing you on that. But what I always think is a good thing to have is making sure we have references on there. I don't mean just from your bosses, but from your colleagues who you worked alongside. As I said, it's all about team involvement, team makeup. So if you've got Joe Blogg sat next to you, who you've worked with for a long time, especially if they're very well connected within the community, get them to recommend you. Get them to say what you're like as a person, as a developer, the contributions you've made. It adds a lot of weight that you can work within a team, you can work with people. Having employer ones are good, but I always recommend get some peer references on there as well. Twitter again, it's a really powerful tool. It shows you're connected. It shows your work. You love what you do. It's important what you say. It's important not to be negative. It's always important to be positive in what you're saying, even if you don't agree with things you've seen or patches you've seen and stuff like that. As soon as you start slating things, again, your value drops down, because employees will look at that and say, do I want that negative influence within my team? Being silent on Twitter is not, or silent in social media as a whole isn't good. It's about, again, it's all about engaging in connection. I know I keep repeating that, but it just adds a lot of weight if you're seen, and it's easier for people to find you if you're seen. How we behave at work matters. Again, get into constantly. It's good to question when you feel there are things that are wrong, but there's a way in which we do that. There's a way in which we show how we work within a business. Because obviously reputations can stick. I don't think Mr. Leeson will ever get another banking job in his life, but your reputation will precede you. They can also do wonders. Mr. Attenborough here, he's seen as the authority on nature and etc. So your reputation can also be a good thing. Your reputation can change. I don't know how many of you know David Beckham. In '98, he was seen as a villain in the UK. There was effigies hung everywhere of him. But now he's regarded as one of the greatest exports we had, due to a lot of work in changing the perception of him. But then I guess reputations are a matter of opinion. Not everyone will agree that you're good at what you do, but again, they are a matter of opinion. Are you known in the community? Are you engaged in the community? Are you connecting with the community? Again, like I was saying earlier about referrals and references and stuff like that, if you're referred from someone within the community, it will boost you. So let's get further connected. And when you leave, it's important how you do that. Because again, it's like I said about previously, your reputation will follow you. So it's about when we leave, we do it in the right manner. And as people have long memories, people will remember someone who was obnoxious or caused problems within a business, because you never know when you leave company X that your manager would also leave company X, and then you could be working for them again. So again, it's all about how you perceive yourself. And again, in summary, before we take some questions, the Perl market is very good. There are lots of companies hiring. There are developers out there who are looking. The jobs are all over the world. But as I said to you earlier, make sure you're showing your passion. Make sure you're really connected, and I say get involved. So finally, if you are looking for, this is an ad now. If you are looking for work, I'm on the bright pink stand, as you can probably tell by my t-shirt. So yeah, any questions? Yes. I would always say it depends on which company. If you work for a public sector company, it's hard to get a line manager to reference you. But if you work for a tech company, if you give a HR reference, the immediate thought would be, oh, is there a reason he's not giving a tech reference? Yeah. It's more difficult. Is there a, you could probably then potentially give a HR reference and then a colleague or someone in which you worked with, someone who can assess you technically. Because I always find someone who's happy to share technical references is confident in their ability in what they do. Those that steer too clear away from that, whether it's true or not, has the appearance that there's something to hide. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, and how do you demonstrate that? Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, on your CV, there's where I said list your projects and list your environment. What I mean by that is when you list your environment, list how many people you worked within your team. Whether it's a company of 20, but you work closely with 5 people, put that on there. So it's showing you worked in a small team as well as connected with a large team. And then talk about the project you did as a team, and then your involvement in that. So if you put we worked as a team of 5, we did this, this, and this, and I contributed this, this, and this, you're showing there what you've done, and who you've worked with, and what you did that, and what end project you got there, and what the team involvement was, and what the team makeup was. Whether it's a team of 3 developers, a product manager, and a business analyst, put that because you've worked with other people then. So list who you've worked with on that certain project. Yes. I've encountered some people who are looking at Perl 6, but no, nothing much more than that. But watch this space. Maybe when I give this talk next year, who knows? Anyone else?